that fake it till you make it thing, as the truth is, you're not faking it. You're projecting who you want to be and what
Right.
you want to accomplish. So
Right.
you're not faking it, but we say it, fake it till you make it because it rhymes and it sounds cool.
It sounds
But
cool.
that's not really what you're doing.
So today, well, okay, I'll start. I'm starting. I really am.
I'm starting.
Oh, hey, hey everyone.
Video editor, this is the start.
Oh,
This is it.
yeah, this is
Look,
what
look,
this
we're
is
doing it.
we're
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 doing
we're
it.
we're talking. Okay. Hey everyone,
Okay.
welcome back to Pros Talking Prose. Oh, I'm here with Troy. Troy and I are going to put aside some of our deadlines and some of our busy work, which he has been doing masterfully over the last couple of days. And we're going to kind of set all this aside and we're going to check in with something that's really important today, and that's our mental health. So, because let's just be honest, we can get a little bogged down. And I know personally, I have been really bogged down getting ready for conferences and trying to scale. And, Troy keeps showing me these amazing automations, and I'm like, my brain is about to explode. So, mental health is probably a good thing right now. Um, so I mean, and Troy, yeah, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like you gotta have
Oh,
a check-in once in a while.
well, yeah, every now and then I have to have a check-in to stop and make sure and see where I'm at, what I'm really doing. And the other thing is, like, it's just good to get away from the screen sometimes.
Mm,
And I can be obsessive because I've got all this great stuff that I can do and all these things that are happening. And oh my goodness, this is fantastic. But at the same time, like if you don't take a break, you can literally just go nuts. And this can be my only home is this little chair right here.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not necessarily a great thing to have happening for me.
No.
So not for my health, not for my dog's health, who likes to walk around and do stuff like that. You know what I mean? So but anyway, it's just not good for you to be working all the time. The other thing is that writing life is stressful. And like and that is true whether you're successful or not. We'll talk about that in a little bit probably,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one of the things that we're going to talk about. And I have things that de-stress me, and one of them is music. I love music. I
Oh
don't make
yeah.
music, but I love music, even though I've written a song, but I still don't make music. I just write lyrics and have other people help me do song things. But I mean, but music is a big deal for me. And for some people it's not. Some people like the silence and all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I'm not
just
good. I don't know. It depends on my day.
anyway.
It depends on my day. I
Yeah.
prefer silence when I'm mad at everybody.
Well, and there's certain music and certain types of music has that captures me and has a certain amount
Mhm.
of my attention, which is good for my meditation. Also, like I'm a lyrics guy.
Mm.
I'm as interested in the lyrics as I am in the music. And if you combine both really well, then I'm totally in 100%. But there are times when I'm just like, I need those lyrics to settle my brain, and
Yeah.
to make it work right.
Mhm.
But then there are other times when, I'm listening to heavy metal and head banging out because I can type 120 words a minute when I'm doing that. And so that's probably good for me too in some areas. So, yeah,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I can't.
whatever.
It depends on what I'm doing for music, but I love music too. I'm the same way. So, but anyway, so we're gonna go through. I've got a list. I came up with a list of 10
A list.
things, a list of 10 things that I think we can do to kind of stay sane while we're going through the biz. This might work universally, not just for writers, but I will say that, like you said, writing, I think it gets kind of this shrug of a acknowledgement that it's stressful. I think you're right. It's a lot more stressful than people want to give it credit for, or they don't think it's going to be stressful, because how could it be stressful? You're doing what you love, right? But yeah, um but yeah,
Oh,
we could go off on a
yeah.
tangent on that one, but
Yeah,
we'll
we
just
will shortly. I guarantee
we
you.
will.
I guarantee I'll go off on it at
Guarantee.
least once during this episode.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's do my first one, which is let's set realistic expectations. Um
Oh,
yeah, we talked a little bit a couple episodes ago about about setting expectations when we're, when we're organizing our life and, figuring out how to pivot and so on. And I think the same thing is clear here. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. You always need to make sure that you're not giving yourself um, unrealistic expectations when you're working towards a goal, because otherwise you're just going to be creating more stress than you really need. And sometimes for me in particular, what that does is it causes me to like stifle. I'm one of those persons.
Mm.
I'm one of those people that kind of get paralysis from stress. So when I'm really super
Oh,
stressed out,
yeah.
I kind of stop working altogether and I just kind of go into this, roly poly mode where I fold up into a roly poly ball and
Oh,
I just roll off into my bed and don't want to get out of it. So I guess for writers in particular, I find myself saying this a lot, but don't compare yourself to other people.
oh,
Just don't. It tends to set yourself up, and this idea of like you've got to have these certain milestones, or you've got to have these certain benchmarks, or you've got to have this certain accomplishment by this certain date, or you're a failure. And that's all just wrong. And it gives unrealistic expectations. So I guess
mm,
just make sure that you're checking in with yourself and saying, okay, what is my goal, and where and how can I accomplish it, and how long is this going to take me? Like, and be realistic. Take into account all those other things that come into your life, not just your writing, but your work, your family, your, feeding your dogs, your car. I was neglecting my yard work for like a year because I was like, I'm too busy. And so, and I love pulling weeds. So just, it's
oh,
it's one of the
I
you
have a
I
yard guy. I have a yard guy.
well, if you have a yard guy, that's awesome. But I actually enjoy yard work. So that was one of those things where it was like, oh my gosh, I'm like neglecting other parts of my life because I'm putting too much emphasis on this thing.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so just make sure that you're giving yourself realistic expectations to accomplish things with while taking into account all the other things that you have going on in your life.
Hmm.
So, what do you think?
So, first of all, it's really easy to get out of balance, right? And what
Yes.
I tend to do is if I'm overwhelmed or stressed, I go into frantic mode. And so I'm
Hmm.
doing 4 million things, but I'm not finishing a thing
Yeah.
because I'm not focused on anything. So that creates its own set of problems. So I have to slow down and focus on things. The other thing is when you're setting goals, before you set a deadline for something, do something that we editors often do, and that I do with writing as well on particular projects. Okay. And this is what you do is you do a calibration period, right? You calibrate instruments normally, right? Like you see
Right.
how they're going to
Yeah.
perform. And then you adjust your expectations for that, right? Like I don't expect my Ford F-150 to go 130 miles an hour between here and Boise. So I allow myself plenty of time because I've calculated how long it actually takes with traffic to get from my house to other places. And Google will even do that for me if I use my Google Maps, right? But we don't do this in our lives because we're not paying attention, right? But here's what you do. When I'm doing an edit, I do a calibration edit. I take an hour and I just say, I'm going to edit to the best of my ability during that hour and stay focused and not do anything else. At the end of that hour, how many pages have I edited of this manuscript?
Hmm.
How many pages of the manuscript? How many hours is it going to take me to edit this manuscript? That's called a
Good.
calibration edit. It's a real simple way of figuring out like this person's writing is really horrible and it's going to take me a really long time, or this person's writing is pretty good and this is going to be a pretty fast edit, right? Okay. Same thing when you're working on a
Yeah.
writing project, because some of them, nonfiction, require more thought process. So you might average in an hour 800 words, not because you're only typing 800 words in an hour, but because that's how much your brain can process about that topic. And then you can get
Hmm.
on a roll. I can get on a roll with some of my stuff, and I can be doing 2,500, 3,000 words an hour. No
Yeah.
problem, right? Because the story is flowing, it's fast, it's right. But I need to take that into account when I'm putting into my figuring out my scheduling software how long something's actually going to take to do.
Right.
right? So it's just a calibration. So it's the same thing. If like taking my dog for a walk, if I take him around the big U in my neighborhood, right, then it's going to take me 40 minutes. So if I only account 20 minutes for taking my dog for a walk, we're not going to be back in time. And suddenly I'm going to feel behind and feel pressure that I put on myself because I could have prevented the whole thing by just saying it's going to take me 40 minutes to walk the dog. So I'll give myself 45 or an hour to walk the dog. And then if I'm back early and I get a little extra work done, hey, yay me, right? But so that calibration is really important in setting goals is know what's realistic. If you don't know what's realistic, figure it out before you start and set yourself a goal that there's no way you can accomplish.
Good call.
So,
I would say in that calibration, also, then you kind of lead right into step two, which is make sure that you're scheduling breaks. Um,
oh,
you
yes.
you got to protect your creative energy. Make sure that you're understanding that, like you said, your truck can go so far, but you're gonna have to stop and refuel, and that's important for your brain as well. And I know that for me, particularly when I I mean, even last year, I think part of my problem last year was I was running 7 days a week with no breaks. And
Hmm.
it was the year before that I was actually very protective of my time, and I was making sure that I was taking my Sunday and Monday days off, and I was protecting that. I turned my phone off. I would stay away from my desk. I was really good about it, and I was much more productive, and I was much more creatively in tune with the work I was doing, and I was much better at what I was doing than I was last year. And I think that part of
Hmm.
the reason is because I was running on midnight oil. And when you're running on midnight oil, that oil is crappy. Like you're going to be
Well,
flickering.
yeah, if we go back to the truck example, like between here and Boise, if I do 70 miles an hour, if I keep under 70 miles an hour, even though the speed limit is 80 out here, because I have a
Mhm.
big truck with a big motor in it, then I get about 21 miles to the gallon.
Mhm.
If I go 75, I get 18.
Yeah.
If I go 80, I get 16.
Mhm.
Why? Because I'm not being as efficient the faster
Right.
I'm going. I'm pushing that vehicle and that tool to limits that, like, it'll do it, no problem. It has a big motor. It'll pass anything but a gas station if you go fast enough. But the faster you go, the
The
faster that
more
fuel
fuel.
disappears, you
Exactly.
know? Or when I'm towing a trailer because I've got something heavy, right? If you've got some heavy stuff in your life, schedule more rest, slow down because otherwise you're going to burn up all your fuel. And if you don't take time to refuel, which is those breaks that we're talking about, so try different things. The Pomodoro timer things. They're like 27 minutes and you take a certain amount of break. Or there's other
Oh
ones
yeah,
that say
yeah.
57 minutes and you take a 17-minute break. There's all kinds of systems out there. Find the one that works for you. However long you need to work and then take a break, work on that. Wear your Apple Watch, it'll bug you every hour to stand up, you know.
Mhm.
Do that. Freaking stand up,
Yeah.
but take a break because literally, like, you can't keep going without taking breaks without eventually you're just going to burn out. And it's
I
happened to all of us. It's happened to
I will
me,
say this too.
Yeah.
But when you it's not just taking a break in the middle of a project, but it's actually taking the break to actually continue creating. um
Hmm.
for example, you got to let your mind wander. um and I used to tell my clients, take schedule a time to be bored. You need to schedule boredom,
Hmm.
because what happens when you're bored, and this it usually happens for me, it's when I do the dishes or take a shower. When I'm doing the dishes or taking, it's whatever, whenever my hands are wet, I need to write something down.
So you just dump water
I
over your
just I'm
hands
like
at your desk, and then you're
I'm
like,
like, oh
"Oh,
my
I'm
gosh, that
good
was
to go."
a great idea. Hang on, let me find a
Yeah,
pad.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
just
Well, I'll give you an example of that. Just like I was working on one of these automation things, and there's always the most important things is like the trigger that
yeah.
starts it, right? That trigger is what's the most important thing. And one of them, I could not figure it out. Like I couldn't figure out how to trigger it. And Holly and I were off doing something entirely different. We were in the middle of a store somewhere, and I went, "Whoa." And she went, "What?" And I go, "I just figured out how to fix this whole thing." And she goes, "What whole thing?" Like we're in the middle of a thrift store or something. Like I'm looking for a pan, and she's thinking I've solved some kind of household problem, but I haven't. I've solved a completely different problem that's on my mind because that's I'm letting my brain wander over that.
Right.
Douglas Adams took baths when he needed to
Yeah.
think through things, and dude, sometimes he took 7, 8 baths a day, and the man was huge. He had to have a huge bathtub.
Are we sure
I mean, he
he
was
was
bigger
just
than me.
bathing?
We're not asking. No one's asking. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is not that kind of book. You know, whatever.
Oh, that's
But I
funny.
mean, whatever you need to do to reset your brain. I like going for a walk. I like being outside,
Yep.
that type of thing. That's really helpful for me. There's different things that help different people depending upon what your personality is and what you like to do. Do that. Find your thing, but use that as a time to get away because you do need that time to be bored and let your mind wander through the different things. I've solved so many story problems by just going, all right, I'm out. I go for a bike ride or I go for a walk or whatever. And then I come back and I'm like, problem solved. Let's get
Yeah.
this done. So it
Awesome.
really does work. So take that time off,
Take
even
the
if it's
time
one
off.
day a week, whatever the
Yep.
case may be. I used to say you need to write every day. I don't. Well, I almost write every day still, but I don't always do other work every single day
Right.
because it's just too much. You just need to take a break. Otherwise, your brain doesn't know what to do with itself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Number 3, build a safe network of support.
oh, please, for the love of all that's holy, if you need a safe network, and you literally don't have anybody, contact one of us.
Yeah. We'll
I need
put
a
you in
safe network too,
yeah. Well,
and we'll put you in touch with
we'll
people.
put you in touch with people. The I think that the writing seems to be kind of a lonely world. Like you think you're alone, you're with your thoughts a lot when you're a writer. You want, like, again, you need sometimes that solitude to be able to get things clear and out and on paper, and how you're trying to figure it all out. And like you said, it's kind of a career of solitude, but you do need, we are social animals. We need social atmospheres and networks to support us at times when we're particularly low or we feel we need that energy. um I'm naturally a hermit. Like I will stay locked in my cage for months. I would be totally fine with not leaving my house. In fact, my best friend, she's always teasing me about she has locations on me. And one time she contacted me and she texted me, and it had been a while since we'd seen each other. She's a therapist, so she works long hours, and um it had been a while since she and I had actually seen each other. And she texted me and she says, "Stacey, you have not left your house in 10 days." She's like, and I was like, "Oh, you're checking on
That's not
me."
awesome. It's not awesome that you go 10 days without leaving your house. That's the thing is there are times when like my truck will stay parked in the same place for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
I just won't even go get in it for any reason at all. I have
Right?
food, I have water,
Why
I can
leave?
walk, around for my exercise. I don't even
But
get in that truck. But I should. But
you
I should get
should.
out of my neighborhood. The other thing
But
is like just having people you can
just
call or
having people to
text or
check in
whatever
you. Yeah, you don't want to be
and check on
the
you.
old lady that lives down the street that died a month ago and nobody knew until there was a strange smell coming from the house. Like, you don't want to be that person. So really just reach out. There's writers networks, there's critique groups, there's library networks, there's readers and books clubs. There's a lot of places that you can go to meet with people, and you're not alone. Writers, there's more of you out there than you think. 80% of
Mhm.
people who exist on this earth want to write a book, and about 30% of you are writing a book right now, which means you're not alone. That's a buttload of people. So just go find other people like you that are
Hmm.
interested in the same things. Trust me, everybody likes the same book you like to read, even if you have a strange harem fetish. It's just they're there.
Somebody likes it.
I know. I met a guy who writes them.
Oh yeah,
So
there was a guy I lived next to for a long time he made bank writing
writing
erotica
harem, right?
under
Writing,
under a pen name. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody knew what he was doing, and he didn't care. Like
yeah,
he's
no,
some people like you're not in this writing thing necessarily for the fame or things like that.
no, you just do it
And
because you like it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's some stress involved with that because here's the thing, like I'm okay. So a little bit of a tangent, but I write for a living, right? So and
Mm-hmm.
do this stuff for a living. So, I can say all the time with all the artsy fartsy stuff of, oh yeah, it's great if I just reach one person with my work. However, reaching one person with my work does not provide groceries for me,
Right.
right? So that creates another problem, right? So I have to, there's that part of the writer's life that's that disconnect that you have to harmonize with, okay? And being around other writers will help you understand, first of all, that you're not alone, and that other writers or artists or whoever. There's a guy I know who's a songwriter, that I've gotten a connection with him, and I love it because he goes through exactly the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly the same stuff. Both of us the other day were talking about it, and there was a song actually we were both talking about, and one of the lines in the songwriter is talking about how even fame is anyway. It's a relatively new album. We'll talk about it maybe in a little bit, but anyway,
Okay.
one of the lines is nobody ever told me I would get sick of myself.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I'm like,
I
I'm
I
like,
might
if
make
you
that a
don't like me
mantra.
at my worst, I don't like me at my worst. I wouldn't put up with that stuff either. You
Nope.
know, I mean, come on. So, but there's a certain amount of identifying with artists who we understand. We spend a lot of time in solitude. We spend a lot of time poring over our own work and thinking it's horrible or thinking that it's just boring and why are we doing the same old thing over and over and all that kind of stuff. And it's just that's not really what you're doing. That's not what's happening. But it can just be a lonely endeavor. So it's good to just have a network you can reach out to. Anyway,
That's true. No, that's totally
yeah.
true. But I will say this too, though, kind of a little caveat on the end of this little exclamation point that we've just dropped on everybody is that I want you to beware and stay away from overly or excessively negative spaces. If there's a lot of people that are just they're just I'll have Sydney bleep it out, but the stitch and groups or like the sessions that people get into,
Hmm.
it's fun for a minute. I mean, I'll call my best friend and sometimes we'll gossip for an hour or so on about one person or another, but then it's over. Like we don't
Hmm.
dwell in that. We don't want to sit there in that space. Most of the time I'm not really a negative person, so if I'm bitching about somebody, it's usually because they pissed me off, and once I get it out of my system, I'm done, and I'm usually
Hmm.
forgiving that person within 15 minutes. So it's just, it is what it is, but don't a lot of times right now in today's society, it feels like a lot of times people just love to just stick in this nasty
Oh,
tar of negativity, and it's just not good for you. It's not good for you. It's frankly, people, it's killing us as Americans. Our health is declining as a society. Like, and I have to agree that part of that's our food, part of that's our activity levels, part of that's all these other things, but also part of it, I think, is negative. I think it's our negative
mhm.
living spaces. We're living in a like hotbed of negativity.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, there's a lot of people out there, especially if you're trying to make a living as an author or whatever, that are going to try to get you to do the things they want you to do out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is true of the political climate right now at the moment too, is both sides are pointing at each other and pointing at different things that they want you to be afraid of
Right.
instead of being for something.
Right.
Okay? Knock that beep off.
Right.
Okay? Just knock it off.
Just,
It's
yeah.
stupid. There has never been a better time in history to be a writer. There is some really cool stuff that is enabling us to do things that we couldn't have dreamed of when I started out,
Yeah.
right? We couldn't have done it, but we can do those type of things right now because of the times we live in. Are there obstacles? Yes. Are there challenges created by AI and the changing publishing model? Yep. So what? Those challenges have always been there. They're easier to overcome than they ever have been. So seriously, get out of that negative mindset. If somebody's always doing that, we had one critique group member when I was in a critique group that forever was everything that you put in your book that was anything that wasn't exactly the way you were, you needed a sensitivity reader for, and you should have somebody read this who's not you, and all this other stuff. I'm like, I don't need to hear that when I'm in the middle of a first draft.
Right.
When I'm revising, if you see some red flags, hey, let me know. But right now, that's not what I need. That's not helping me. That's negative, and it's just dragging me down and makes me not want to finish my first draft.
In fact,
I
I
don't
think it
need
would
that.
even create a writer's block, you
Yeah, it
know?
can create a writer's block 'cause you're like, well, I don't know about this topic. So that write what you know BS is, well, that's another topic
That's
for
another
another day. And
topic.
yeah, there's a couple things that like, man, I just want to rant about. But anyway, all of that being said, yes, network, avoid negativity, stick with positive people who are building you up and point out the things that you're doing well. If you have areas where you need to improve, it's great to have help in those areas too. But sometimes you just need to hear, hey, man, good job. You're kicking some butt out there. That's what you need to hear.
I'm gonna steal a little because you went off on that little tangent there about challenges, and that challenges are always there. Let me. One of my clients, Kevin Keezer, he goes by the moniker Karrion Cross in the WWE right now. He is an amazing guy. I love the guy to pieces, and he's the heel right now in the WWE. But man, he is like probably one of the most solid humans I've ever met in my entire life. I love him. And he's got an amazing wife, Elizabeth. She goes by Scarlett. Just great, great people. And Kevin's got an amazing zen quality to his personality. Of course, like not when he's in character, but when he's his real Kevin personality, he's definitely got this kind of really this whole big perspective on life. And one of the things he said that where he's at right now is quite challenging. And when it's quite challenging. It's overwhelmingly challenging to some people. But he said that if he wasn't being challenged, he doesn't think he would be where he's at. He says he tends to
Hmm.
go and be where there are challenges because that's where he thrives. And I kind of feel, and
Hmm.
he said it much more eloquently than I did. But if you want to listen to it, just go follow the real Killer Cross on Instagram. He's amazing. But um he said it so beautifully, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is so true. It's like you're
Hmm.
never going to go anywhere where there are no challenges. So what you need to do, like you said, is like we have these moments and these ways to kind of manage the stress and to have these mental check-ins, but understand and believe in yourself that when you go through life, challenges are natural part of that. And the only way to really accomplish anything in this life is to go over and accomplish challenges. And that's the only time people
Hmm.
are ever fully satisfied with their life is when they accomplish something hard. So
Hmm.
just just swim in it and just
Yes.
love the moment, and just take the time that it needs to recoup and to refuel so that you can get through it.
Yeah. If
That's
you
my
haven't
advice there.
finished your first book yet, when you finish that, when you write the end, it's going to feel absolutely amazing. But it
Mm-hmm.
feels absolutely amazing every single
Single time.
time
It
because there's
does.
challenges with every single project that you do. The second thing about that is like you don't go to the gym and not expect a challenge,
Right.
right? You go to the gym. If I go to the gym and pick up the 2 pound barbells, I can feel really great about myself. Ooh, I can do this all day. This is fantastic. But I'm not doing anything for my body or myself.
I would be.
Well, hey, maybe. Your gym still makes you call it James because you go there so for infrequently.
Oh my gosh,
That's
I did
that.
wall Pilates the other day, and I'm not kidding. I thought, oh, this is easy. I got done, and I was like, I'm like barely able to walk the stairs right now. I'm like, oh, and
I'm
I had
telling you.
my husband,
Yeah.
he's such a jerk. I said, babe, my legs hurt. He goes, it's because you're finally using them.
Hey, when you're a writer and sit around a lot, it's not wrong. I mean, you just have to, sometimes you just have to get out there and use them legs for something.
Oh, yeah, I got some blood
Anyway,
work. I got some blood work
but
back,
yeah,
and I decided it was time.
it was time.
It
It
was
was
time to
time.
do some
That
work.
happens to you. But anyway, all
Yeah.
right.
Anyway, so okay, well, okay, after that, I guess I'm going to move on to the next one. Number 4. Yeah, we're going to get through this list. Mind your self-talk. Be careful.
Oh,
I'm notoriously bad at this. I will beat myself up a lot. It's kind of one of the things that I'm really bad at, but I will catch myself. I suck, man. I'm horrible at this. I shouldn't be doing this. People don't like me. Why am I even talking? Like, I'm ugly, I'm old, I'm fat. I hear all those words in my head, and it really does make things worse. And like I said before, you want to stay out away from negative spaces, and that includes in your brain.
in your brain.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and
So,
this is a lot when we talk about manifestation and things like that, and whatever you
mhm,
believe about that, whatever. Maybe you need to look into it more if you don't believe in that at all. But part
I
of
believe in
that
it.
is that you have to put yourself in the shoes of your future self where you already have the things that you want, right?
Yes.
And if you're putting yourself in the place of your future self and saying, I suck today and I'm gonna suck tomorrow, guess what?
You're
The
gonna
universe
suck
will say,
tomorrow.
oh, you're gonna suck tomorrow? Okay. And it will
Mhm.
let you suck for as long as you want to suck. Okay.
Mhm.
Because, and the truth is, that's not what you want, but that's what you're telling yourself. That's what you're telling the universe that you want. You're saying, I have to struggle so hard to succeed compared to other people. Yep, you do. You don't have to, but you do, because that's what you're telling yourself. That's what you're telling the universe. That's what you're putting out there. So whatever you believe about that, whether you believe in prayer or other types of manifestation or whatever the case may be, it's all very similar in the way it operates, the way it works. Um, and part of that is your mental ability to receive the things that you want and that you need,
Wasn't
right?
it
And
Henry Ford that said whether you're right, or whether you say you're right, or whether you say you're wrong, you're right, or something like that? It's
Yeah,
whether.
whether you think you're going to fail or whether
Oh
you
yeah,
think you're going to succeed,
you're
either
right.
way,
You're
you're
right.
right.
That's right.
So
Yeah,
you
something
have to
like
go
that.
into things with
Mhm.
a certain level of confidence. That fake it till you make it thing, as the truth is, you're not faking it. You're projecting who you want to be and what
Right.
you want to accomplish. So
Right.
you're not faking it, but we say it, fake it till you make it because it rhymes and it sounds cool.
It sounds
But
cool.
that's not really what you're doing, right?
Right.
So seriously, that self-talk, really important. If you, I mean, I'm taking a class on manifestation right now, mainly because I needed this kind of a reset. But whether you need a class or not, like me, or whether whatever, maybe you're brilliant without it. Well, that's great, awesome. It's just not. I need help sometimes.
I'm going to recommend a
Um,
book, and it's the Unbleep Yourself, Unf Yourself. It is so
mhm.
good. I read that book, and it was so good. And I actually, when I say I read it, I got the Audible because the guy is Scottish, and I just love the Scottish accent to no end. So just hearing him yell at me and cuss at me, it was like the biggest pick me up ever. In fact, I love it so much. I got the calendar. So I have the calendar
Yeah.
on my desk because it was just so good. It felt so good to hear that, okay, Stace, just kick yourself in the butt. Stop thinking negative. You're done. It's a good way to check in with yourself and make sure that if you
Hmm.
hear yourself talking negatively to yourself, reframe your thought, reframe it,
Hmm.
um, turn that negative thought into a positive, look for something else to focus on and be happy about. Instead of saying you're failing, say I'm learning. Do something that's going to move you forward, and
Hmm.
quit kicking yourself, Quit kicking yourself. Quit
Yeah.
hitting yourself.
That's really the whole premise behind it's a book I just read. It's been out for a long time, but it's called The Big Leap.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good book. I like
by
that one too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really, really awesome because what it talks about is the main thing that's in your way of being who you want to do and achieving success is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest obstacle is you. And that self-talk is a huge, huge part of that. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you say, I'm fat, the universe will say, okay, have
Okay.
another cookie,
Yep.
you
Exactly.
know? And you can do that for as long as you want.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Until
and
you
there's
got to
certain things
stop.
that are like genetics, certain things like that that you can't defeat. But
Right.
there's some things you can do too. I
There are
mean,
still some things you
so,
can do.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. So, okay, the next one, number 5, celebrate your micro wins.
yes. I had a
Yes.
friend of mine that used to say that. So we were on a Zoom call once, and in one of my old offices, I had kind of a fireplace mantle type thing behind me, and
Hmm.
on it I had taken these little images of my books, my book covers, and put them in little frames. I had a lot less books then, so I can actually do that. Anyway, which tells me something in and of itself. But we were on the Zoom call, and and we're talking, and I'm talking about, man, I'm discouraged. I haven't done a lot over the last, few months or whatever. And she said, "Can you stop and turn around and look behind you?
Hmm.
Like, what is that on your shelf?" And I just turned around and looked. I'm like, "It's book. Oh,
Mm.
yeah, that's all from like the last 4 years.
Hmm.
That's pretty freaking good, actually."
Yeah.
So maybe I'm okay, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes, so I used to like my to-do lists, I used to erase them or get rid of them or whatever. I don't do that anymore. I leave them for a while with check marks next to everything because then you did something.
My best friend
Oh, I did accomplish
in
something.
Las Vegas, not I keep saying my BFF, but yeah, like my friend in Las Vegas, her name's Jill. She's so cute. She used to add things to her list if they weren't on her list originally, but it was something she accomplished that she had to end up doing. Like she would add them to
Hmm.
her list and cross them off just so that she could
Yes.
have them on the list.
Or
It's so
make a
good.
list and put make a list on the top of the list. And when you're done making the list, cross off
Cross
make the
off, but make
list
a list.
because you made the list. That was your first task.
Yeah,
Make the list.
make a
Made the
list.
list. First task done. Look at that. I'm off to a good start.
Yep.
Whatever it is that you need to, and again, this is a part of the self-talk too, really.
It
But
is.
it's letting yourself see the things that you've accomplished so that you don't become discouraged. Celebrate those little wins. If you go, I sat down to write and I just had a terrible session. I'm like, how much did you write today? And you say 4 pages. And I'm like, you wrote four
4
pages today.
pages.
That's 4 pages you would not have written if you didn't write today.
Hmm.
Done deal. Good deal. Celebrate. Move forward.
If you
So,
sent a query, celebrate. If you finished a chapter, celebrate. The thing is that people don't realize publishing is a very long game. Um there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of steps. So writing a book is the same thing. Writing is just there's a lot involved, and
mhm.
getting that book ready for publication. And then beyond that, it's even there's a lot of steps: marketing, campaigns, learning how to do ads, learning how, running a campaign and seeing what the results of that campaign are. All those things are they're opportunities for you to celebrate wins, because those are all new things and challenges that you have to accomplish, and you need to pat yourself on the back when you accomplish those things, because otherwise, yeah, waiting, I'm not going to celebrate until this book has sold. You're sitting there writing chapter 1. I'm not going to celebrate until I sell 100 of these books.
Yeah,
That's a
no, don't do
long
that.
time. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that to yourself. You'll never finish the
Mhm.
damn book.
It's a long time without a celebration. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So create those micro wins and celebrate them. Okay. Number 6, set clear boundaries. Something you and I did not do last year. So I want you to guard your mental space. Last year, I think I've told this story before, how I kind of ran away from home, and it's deeply personal and what happened to me. But what had happened was is I allowed myself to get so overwhelmed and so burdened by everything that was going on. I did not give myself the chance to breathe, and I was not setting boundaries. So everything was
Hmm.
invading my mental health in such a way that I'd come to a breaking point. So it is your job to make sure that you set boundaries. It's okay to say no.
Hmm. Anybody who tells you differently, tell them no. I mean,
Right.
here's the thing is, and again, this is a part of the ways that you get out of balance is you say
Mm-hmm.
yes to too many things in a certain area of your life in such a way that other areas of your life suffer as a result. Okay. That that is when things really start to suck
Mm-hmm.
because now you're committed to those people and you have this shame and this guilt feeling that you're going to let them down. Here's the deal, and this is one thing I had to learn. Claire Taylor was talking about
Oh
this on a
yeah.
podcast, and I went, "What the heck are you talking about?" And she goes, "It's actually okay to disappoint people and let them down.
Oh,
Sometimes you have to just tell them, 'Hey man, you know that thing I told you I could do by this point? I couldn't do it. So it's going to take me longer. So if you still want me to do it, how about you wait longer? Because that's what I need is more time." Now,
you know,
sometimes that has consequences, like real world consequences too,
I
right?
think
If you're,
Claire
yeah,
I
what
think Claire actually said that at the conference last year. Because I think I
she
remember
might have.
something like that in the workshop. I think it might not have been so poignant, but I remember her saying that, or
Hmm.
I can hear her voice in my head, because I think I remember using that once and saying to a client, I am so sorry. I thought I could accomplish this by this time, but these things came up. And it was the first time I did that, it was so liberating. It was
Hmm.
so
It's so
liberating.
absolutely freeing
Yeah.
because it is okay.
Yeah,
Like,
my clients never were mad at me about it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, no, that's
well,
fine."
and even if they are, this is the thing, even if they are, so there are some deadlines and some things you
Mhm.
really need to do on time in publishing. There are
Right,
some
right,
things that you should do on time.
right.
But if you don't, there's no one, as I often tell people, there's no one on the table waiting for an organ. That's not what we're doing here. So calm down,
Mhm.
take a breath,
Mhm.
and do what you need to do.
Mhm.
Now, like I say, sometimes there's consequences for that, but here's the thing. Consequences are okay.
Yep, they
Sometimes
are.
we just overcommit and we need to face consequences as a result. Okay, do it.
Well, another
Then
another
face the consequences.
another side of this coin, another and well, if this the well, we'll call it a cube, but another side of this cube would be um protecting your time from things that are sucking time from you. Like, for example,
Hmm.
social media. Social media is a tool. It is a tool.
Yeah.
And if once you get to a certain point in your life, especially if you are doing a business, if you're running a business, social media is no longer going to be a place where you waste time. It is now going to be a tool for you. So anytime you're on social media, make sure that you use it to either learn, grow, or expand your business. Do not spend more time on social media wasting time than you are doing something else that's going to mentally and stimulate you, because really honestly social media is a suck. So even if you're
Hmm.
watching this podcast and you're or listening to this podcast, make sure that you're doing this in a balanced way. You're not spending 4 days solid listening to podcasts and not doing anything else. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm a crime junkie. I listen to crime like you would not believe, but I can tell you honestly, if I just spent all day listening to crime podcasts, I would not get anything done. So, when I listen to crime podcasts, the last hour before I go to bed, I'm usually popping the earphones in and playing some Candy Crush and falling asleep. No joke. That's my bedtime routine. So that's when I get it in. Okay. So if I'm on a road trip, I'll pop a crime podcast in. But like it's when I'm not working or I'm not spending time with my family or I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I've got to be present. So
Mhm.
be present and set those boundaries. Don't allow your don't allow things that suck time away from those beneficial things to bleed into your life because
Mhm.
it can poison the field. You don't want to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, so number 7, know your stress signals. This is about knowing your body,
Ooh,
knowing, yeah, no, and this,
yeah.
I don't know, has this changed for you over time? Like as you've aged, have you kind of noticed your stress signals changing?
It hasn't changed a lot for me, but what has changed is I didn't always understand what that feeling was. Right?
Okay.
You would have that feeling, and I'm like, what is that feeling? What I didn't realize was that's anxiety, that's stress, because you feel those things in different places in your body. And usually, a lot of times, this is related to your personality type,
Right.
right? So if you're Enneagram type, there's 9 Enneagram types, there's 3 different centers: the head, heart, and gut.
Uh-huh.
And typically, if you, depending on your type, that's where you'll feel your stress is in your head, your heart, or your gut, whatever the case may
Right.
be. And that usually is related not only to your body, but the way you process stress,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're a very head-centered person, you're gonna process stress by overthinking the shit out of overthinking things.
We'll bleep this stuff out.
We'll bleep it out. Anyway, it's okay. I most of the time I control myself pretty well, but the sometimes anyway, but so there's different places where you feel stress. And so knowing what that is for you and recognizing I'm anxious, I'm having anxiety, or I am having stress can keep you from having an actual anxiety or panic attack. Because you can go, okay, I see the signals early on, and I can step back and calm myself down. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what those triggers are, you can't set yourself back and calm yourself down because you don't know how to do it,
Yeah.
right? And so a part of this is not only is first of all learning who you are,
Right.
understand your personality, understand who you are, but understand what your triggers and what your feelings are, your stress feelings are, and your stress centers are in your body, and I about said something,
Right.
pay attention to
Well,
those things.
I'm going to give a little tip here too. If you've allowed yourself to get over the top and like you're going over the edge, um, again, I'm going to plug my best friend who's a brilliant therapist. She she suggested, I overheard her suggesting once to her daughter who has regular anxiety attacks to eat sour candy when she's having a panic attack and to just suck
Mm.
on a sour candy. I was like, what are you talking about? She says, what happens? And she's smarter than me. So she like told me about how like it triggers something in your brain center because what your brain can't deal with the sour and the panic at the same time. For some reason, it short circuits. So the
Ooh.
brain actually will stop having the panic attack if you're dealing with, and it has to be like, you can't have like a Sour Patch Kid and you really like those Sour Patch Kids. It's got to be like something like super sour. So, but
Suck on
she
a
says,
lemon.
yeah, like a lemon drop or something. So my son who has PTSD and major anxiety disorder, especially after coming home from the Marine Corps. I like tried this with him and I told him, go get some sour heads and put them in your car because he'll have debilitating anxiety attacks that will like even stop him from being able to function or drive his car. So I told him, just go get those and see if next time you're in a situation where it triggers, if that will stop the panic attack. And he says it works. And
I
I'm
believe
like,
it.
that's interesting. So if
Hmm.
you're going over the edge and you're like, oh my gosh, and you've gone past the point of stress, now you're into panic. Like try that, see if that works. And let me know in the comments if it works for you. I want to know if this is something that's like universally true
It'd
because
be
I would
interesting to
like to
see if that's
know.
universal because there's so many different things that work for different people.
Yeah.
Some people that meditation and deep breathing, some people like they need, and some people need silence for that. Some people need sound. I need
Mm-hmm.
sound, right?
Oh
I gotta
yeah.
have sound. I can't, that dead silence, that doesn't work for me, right? That just makes me even more anxious. I'm like, you know, that'll send me right over the top. So, you may need different things. You may need to go for a drive, whatever it is that you need to do, but you know, figure out what it is that causes that stress to just kind of at least take a step back for you, at
Yeah.
least calm down for you.
Right.
Because that's really, really helpful to know. Really
Yeah.
helpful
I
to know.
I would love to like I my the reason I asked about yours changing is because I've noticed that over time I have maybe it's just different signals or different triggers, but I do recognize better, I guess maybe when I'm starting to feel stressed. I'm
Hmm.
recognizing, because I get more irritable. Things start to really like even colors start to irritate me. So when I notice that, I think, oh, okay, I need to take a
You're
step
like,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, number 8, we're getting close. Keep parallel passion. So like have something that you love to do outside of writing. Writing alone is probably not going to be the only thing that fuels your fire, and you're going to need a break from that sometimes. If you're only doing one thing, you're going to get sick of that one thing. So don't be afraid to like step out and say, oh, I like me, I like to pull weeds. It's a weird thing. I do like to pull weeds, especially after a nice rainy day when the weeds are nice and soft and they just pop right out. There's something so satisfying about pulling one of those milkweeds out and having that big long root come out. I love that. I don't know why. Get a big worm wrapped around it, and I'm like, that's as cool.
I'm just going to invite you over whenever you're stressed. That's great.
Oh, yeah, it's great. But anyway, I find it really satisfying to pull weeds out of a garden and then see what it looks like afterwards. It's just nice and clean. Just it's cool. But anyway, find your thing. Find what my foster son, he likes to cross stitch. He thinks it cures his anxiety when he cross stitches. Kind of interesting, but find something else that you can do that will help you feel like you're getting a break or you're investing your time into something that you enjoy.
For sure. Paint, sing, whatever
Listen
it
to
is,
music.
play
Yeah.
guitar, listen to
Yeah.
music, whatever it is that you do. But find something that's an outlet that's a parallel thing. Some people golf. So, like I say, I
Yeah.
like to walk. I like to go ride my bike. I like to fish.
Ski.
Um,
You like to
I
ski?
like to ski. Yeah, I like to ski. I like to camp. I like to be outside. A lot of it's outdoor type things. And what that does is it fuels, like I've written some of my best stuff or come up with some of my best ideas beside a campfire.
Mm.
It just works. It just works.
My
So,
husband and I, we like to ride our Harley, and I can't be trusted to actually drive, steer, be the operator of the motorcycle. I have my motorcycle endorsement, but um I I get really easily distracted. But when I'm on the back of that bike, I can't I can't work. I'm in my helmet and I am alone with my thoughts. And sometimes I tell people I have the best conversations with God when I'm on the back of that bike because I am alone and I can listen to my music and jam, and we're in nature like you said. It's a much
mhm.
better, it's so much more fun to go on these long rides with my friends. We usually have a group of 12, 15 people that we like to ride with, and we'll go up to Lolo Pass, and doing those rides, it's fun. We sit out on the patios of our little campers and whatever when we stop and listen to everybody tell crazy stories, and it's just fun, and
Mhm.
it's something to do other than these other things that I'm passionate about. So it's a way to kind of like take a break. Maybe that was another reason
Mhm.
why 2025 sucked is we didn't do any of our rides last year.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have a motorcycle right now, but I want to get one again. I'm itching so bad.
Well, when you do, you
But
can come
anyway,
with us because it's
but
fun.
yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons I used to love to ride, and same reason I like cycling and stuff like that is you're out
Mm-hmm.
there and I have to concentrate on what I'm doing enough, especially with
Exactly.
cycling, with bicycling and cycling, you have to concentrate on what you're doing enough that you can't really get lost in other thoughts.
Right.
Like it's enough concentration you have to pay attention, but it's not so much that the back of your mind can't be working, but the front of your
Exactly.
mind is focused on what you
What
have to
you're
do.
doing.
When
Mm-hmm.
I go out with my son, I do a lot of like road riding and gravel road riding because that's
Mm-hmm.
what I like to do on my bike, right? My son is a single track mountain bike type guy. When I go with him, I can't concentrate on anything but exactly what I'm doing because I'm terrified I'm going to die. He's going over some big jump and shit, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God. Anyway,
You're like,
but
I'm gonna hit a tree.
so yeah, I mean, but you know what I mean? Like that's those type of things allow you to get out of your writer head and out of your inside in your working head and get into a different brain space. And that is really healthy and good for you.
It's really
So
good for you.
do it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
So I mean, and my number 9, it pairs right up with this. Move your body. Troy
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, have your watch but buzz you every hour. Do something to move your body. And like I said, up until I got my blood work last week, I was always like, do as I say, not as I do. But I will say that when I exercise in the morning, I am much more alert. I am much more clear. My thoughts are happier. I'm a much better, much healthier, happier Stacey. Yeah, my husband and I have started taking our crazy neurotic dogs out on a walk every night after dinner, and it's just been so helpful. So just make sure you're moving your body. Just your bodies are meant to be moving. And like Troy said, like take up bike riding, skiing, do whatever you can to make your body move.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. And then
Absolutely.
the last one, it's gonna go right back to our last episode, but it's give yourself permission to pivot. Give yourself permission
Hmm.
to change when you need to. That's if you don't know what we're talking about, a pivot and how to pivot and all that stuff, you can go back to our last episode of Pros Talking Prose. But it's important that you pivot when you need to, so that you don't
Hmm.
can spiral out of control into your head and stress out.
Yeah. And this is super important. I mean, I had this happen last year in a huge way in my
Mm-hmm.
life that's been extremely beneficial for me in the long term, but in the short term, it was extremely stressful. And it caused me emotions that I don't like to feel,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So it was unpleasant to say the least. But for me, it was actually pretty awesome. There was a couple things that happened in my life, and a couple of there was some music that kind of came into my life too. That was just like it was the most perfect timing that it could have been
Mm.
for that to happen. And there were times when I would just sit wondering what to do and reacting and things like that. And the only thing I could do was sit and listen to music and go, okay, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. I'm not
Yeah.
the only person that's experienced this ever, and I may experience it again at some point. So, hopefully not in exactly the same way, lessons learned, et cetera, et cetera. But, it's one of those times where like some amazing things and timing of things happen in my life that I was like, okay, that actually makes all of the other stuff I had to go through worthwhile. So don't be afraid to experience those things, but just understand if you have to make a change, you have a major change in your life. I've had a few over the last decade, especially, and that have, a couple of them have really rocked my world in ways I never imagined would happen. But hey, you can get through it. You can get through it. But do stop and check in with your mental health. There were a couple times I had to stop and just ask myself, am I reacting to things or am I being proactive and doing the things that I actually need to do? and it's a big deal. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. So just remember, mental health isn't about avoiding breakdowns. It's actually more about building a quality creative life. And
Mhm.
like we said, there's challenges with that, and the challenges are meant to be overcome, but constantly work at making sure that you're checking in with yourself. um
Mhm.
give yourself your weekends that I mean, whether you're Christian or not, one of the things in the Christian religion is that the Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week, was meant for a day meant for man to rest. And
Mhm.
I don't care who you are, I think that that was from the beginning of time something that we knew we needed to have. So give yourself a
Mhm.
day, give yourself permission to rest at least once a week, but give yourself the breaks and so on and so forth. um
Yeah. And it
yeah.
doesn't have to be on Saturday or Sunday or a weekend or whatever. Right now, like depending on what my schedule is and what other things are going, like right now, my Sabbath day is usually Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it goes, and that rotates around for me depending on what else is happening. A lot of times I've worked weekends in my life, even in my writing life, just because, if I'm doing education, people want to go to a class on Saturday when they're off work. And well, that means I have to work Saturday, right? So
Yeah.
there's always those times when you have to change that around, but it doesn't matter what day it is. And it doesn't matter if, like, maybe you're a person who stays up late and you sleep in late in the mornings, or maybe
Hmm.
you're a person like me, you get up at god awful early times in the morning, and then
Take
whatever
little
the
breaks
case may
during the day,
be,
whatever you
you
have to
take
do.
your
Yeah.
breaks, you move your stuff around, whatever it is that you need to do. But take that time to rest for sure. Take that
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
rest and relax and check in with yourself. It's one of the most important things that you can do. I mean,
Mhm.
the part of this is you want to part of the purpose of like writing full time or doing any of this stuff full time is that you want to create a life that you don't need a vacation from. I
Oh,
loved my
good
vacation to
idea.
Hawaii and to Mexico and all that kind of stuff. That was a blast. But like in some ways, by the end of that vacation, I'm excited to get home and get back to writing and doing the things I love.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's the kind of
Exactly.
life you want. It's a life that you go, man, I'm excited to go on vacation, but I'm also excited to come home.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, wherever you call home, whatever you do,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna officially call this print Pros Talking Prose over, and give
Ooh.
everybody permission to go have a walk and talk, and take a break from editing commas, or inserting semicolons in the wrong place, whatever you need to do.
Whatever you're
If
doing that we're gonna
whatever you're
fix
doing,
later,
yeah,
take a
just
break from
take
that.
a break,
Take a break from
for
that.
a second, and then, like, again, do all these things that we've talked about. These are all great tips, but it's not worth ending up harming your health, which is, to the point where I almost am, like I was like I said, I had some blood work done last week, and I realized, oh, I've been living a hard life lately. And while I'm not in danger zones, it was enough for me to have a wake up call and realize,
Mhm.
okay, I need to make some changes if I'm going to be a happy, fun Disneyland grandma.
Yes.
So I need to do some changing. But anyway, you do what you need to do. Your bodies are resilient, your brains are resilient. Give yourself the chance to give them a chance to work. So that's my best advice. Everybody, it's been great talking to you tonight, Troy. And everybody, we'll see you next week when we talk about, are we ready for the next one? Dual timelines. We're going to talk about dual timelines in a
Ooh,
manuscript. Ooh,
yeah, me
yeah.
excited.
Yeah, that's going
Me
to be fun.
likey so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's going to be
Anyway.
fun. All right, everybody.
All
Take
right.
care.
We'll talk
Have
to
a
you
great
next
night.
time. All right.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.